The Handmaid's Tale is a feminist work that critiques aspects of society that repress and stifle women. Through its use of speculative fiction, which portrays some aspects of a reality, but to extremes not yet seen, it shows what our society can become if we do not change the path we are heading down. There are certainly many similarities to our world, making it much more convincing. By showing women in the ultimate form of repression, being seen as tools only for reproduction, and holding conservative views as a central part of the show, it shows all the things we need to avoid and serves as a sort of parody to the injustices we see today. This show tackles issues surrounding class through its hierarchy of rich, poor, and fertile women, gender, through its complete erasure of female rights and sexuality, through its laws that hang any queer or gay individuals to be made an example for others. This show points out the flaws in society where these issues are hugely present and parallels it to events that happen in our world today. For example, in the early days of the revolution, before their bodies and clothes were so tightly regulated, women were shamed by the revolutionaries for being sluts if their body were in any way exposed. Then later, women were forced to wear old-fashioned clothing that eradicated all curves and appearances of sexuality. This sort of harassment is seen in alt-right groups today, as women are shamed for their sexualities, as well as when young girls have this right taken away from them in schools by rules limiting the clothing they wear and the amounts of exposed skin allowed. Men simply do not have this applied to them. Boys in my high school could wear sexually explicit t-shirts or muscle tees with no repercussions, and the only dress code placed upon them was no wallet chains, which seemed to have been included to make the rules not seem one-sided. Another example relating to the dystopia of today's world is how queer individuals were seen as an offense to God and either unalived or put through redemption, a surgery where the genitalia was removed from females. This is similar to our version of conversion therapy and the unaliving of queer and trans individuals in our society. Moreover, protest scenes were depicted where militia were in control and used excessive force in subduing protesters, using guns and beating those engaged in protest. This reminded me of the militia at the Capitol, as well as police violence and brutality during Black Lives Matter protests. And there have recently been laws passed that allow the military to be used in protests, even when peaceful. Furthermore, common phrases repeated by individuals in the Handmaid's Tales, such as "blessed are the meek," are used to suppress women and praise those who are weak-willed and not too opinionated. This is similar to how women today are put down for being too bossy, when a man who does the same thing are praised for being leaders. Another example is when a woman described her essay and the woman teaching them the new society's rules made everyone surround her chanting it was her fault and that it was done by God to punish her and teach her a lesson. This is really quite like the essay culture in our society, and how 4 out of every 1,000 essay assaulters end up in a conviction. Women are required to give so much proof of the act and are put through so many questions, which put the blame on what they were wearing, if they were drinking, and what they did to deserve it. Immediately after an SA, we are expected to report it and must head to the police station with proof of the fact, taking care to not shower or destroy evidence after one of the most traumatizing events of our lives. Men have their futures considered and are often given reduced sentences because they had a promising future, completely ignoring the women's future. One example of this is the Brock Turner case, where he was seen as essaying a unconscious woman and was only put in prison for a very short amount of time. There's also so much effort put into speaking about how we should just not trust the women as false accusations can be made. Men are around 400 times more likely to be SA'd themselves than to be falsely accused, but this is never pointed out. The incredible parallels between these worlds should terrify you and work to wake people up from the fact that something needs to change. Although all of these examples are much less severe in our society, they could easily progress towards this if we allow it, especially considering the upcoming election and what could happen to women and queer or trans individuals or immigrants or Black, Indigenous people of color if Trump is to be elected. We should use this as well as other speculative fictions to modify toxic traits in our society and learn from these world's mistakes before it is too late. Speculative fictions do a good job at eliciting these feelings. One writer of a dystopian speculative fiction said, "I felt like I didn't need to invent a disaster because there was already a disaster happening," showing how close these worlds parallel to ours. These pieces of work simply play off of the issues we face today and amplify them so readers can see the issues in society. The Handmaid Tale does a great job of this, and it's starting to make an impact on our world as people have been seen at Capitol buildings in red handmaids' robes protesting restrictions on abortions.